Good afternoon, everyone. Before we begin, I would like to introduce everyone here. I'm Jennifer Schorn, District Attorney here in Bucks County. To my left is Detective Timothy Perkins of the Bucks County District Attorney's Office, Chief Martin McDonough of the District Attorney's Office. Behind them is Detective Timothy Furman of the Bucks County District Attorney's Office. To his right is Lieutenant Charles Pinkerton of the Northampton Township Police Department. Slightly to the front, and to his right is ADA Jennifer Reckner, and to her right, Detective Thomas Martin, and to his right, Detective Sergeant Peter Stark of the Northampton Township Police Department. To my right is my colleague Mark Ferber, Chief Deputy District Attorney. Mr. Ferber and Ms. Reckner will be prosecuting the case. On Sunday, June 16th, Bucks County Radio received a call from the Metropolitan D.C. Police Department regarding a well-being check for an individual who resides at 26024 Beacon Hill Drive. That's in Holland in Northampton Township, Bucks County. The officer indicated that William Ingram was in custody in the District of Columbia for assaulting a police officer and doing damage to a police vehicle, following which Ingram was transported to the hospital. At that time, he admitted to killing his mother. During the course of the encounter with law enforcement in the District of Columbia, he admitted to several officers that he had killed his mother. Northampton Township Police arrived at the residence on Beacon Hill Drive to conduct the well-being check. While officers were checking the exterior of the residence, an officer noticed on the window to the residence that there was blood on the sill. The officer opened the unlocked window and noticed that there was blood surrounding the immediate area and also smeared on the walls and the floor. He further observed that the furniture in the home was in disarray. Officers forced entry through the front door of the home, and as they entered the residence, they observed a pile of clothing, household items, plates, towels, linens, and a blue laundry bag, in addition to a futon-style couch piled on top of in a pile, let's put it that way. Ultimately, when officers were able to search that pile, they discovered the body of Dolores Ingram underneath the pile of items in the home. They first observed a human foot sticking out. The foot was cold to the touch. It was apparent that the foot was that of an older woman, and then ultimately discovered Dolores's body. It appeared that she had trauma, and there was obviously blood in the immediate area and all over the residence. As mentioned, the deceased was later identified as Dolores Ingram, who was 82 years of age and the mother of William Ingram. After discovering Dolores's body, officers interviewed a neighbor who stated that on Saturday, June 15th at around 1 a.m., she was awoken to loud banging. While she was awake, she later checked her video surveillance home security cameras that captured the exterior of her residence and the hallway to the victim's residence. At 1:42 a.m., the cameras showed who she described as Billy, later identified as the defendant, William Ingram, running out of the condo shirtless. At 1:43 a.m., it showed Billy walking back towards the walkway to his home, towards the property where his mother lived. At 10:03 a.m. the same morning, the camera showed Billy leaving the residence, walking away from the property. That was the last he was seen in Bucks County. Officers ran an all-vehicles-owned search for Dolores Ingram and received information showing that Dolores owned a 2015 white Honda Civic with PA registration. The vehicle was not in the complex lot. However, later, through researching license plate reader intelligence, the vehicle was identified at 10:13 a.m. on the 413 bypass, Route 332 East in Bucks County. The second time the vehicle was identified was at 10:21 a.m. on Route 332 in Stony Hill Road in Bucks County. Both showed the vehicle traveling away from the residence. A search warrant of the residence was obtained and executed. The detectives who conducted the search of the residence ultimately observed Dolores Ingram with what appeared to be severe head trauma, and that she was in fact buried under the pile of household items. The search also revealed that there was a large quantity of blood and spatter throughout the entire residence. In the living room where the victim was discovered, officers turned over the couch that was upside down on the pile of items. An officer had previously removed a blue laundry bag from the pile when they were doing the well-being check. The blue laundry bag contained 6 vacuum-sealed clear plastic bags containing suspected marijuana. Each bag appeared to contain 1 pound of marijuana. Furthermore, in the pile, detectives located a gray cellophane bag that was partially transparent, and evident was $100 bills identifiable through the bag. The total currency contained within that bag was $53,000. Also in the pile covering the victim was a bag that contained psilocybin, which is a psychedelic drug that causes hallucinogenic effects. Included in the items stacked on top of the victim was a carpet, a large geotype rock that weighed 60 pounds, an aquarium that was shattered that contained 2 reptile lizards. The lizards were found deceased on the floor. All of the items were stacked on top of the victim's head and chest. A hunting-style fixed-blade knife was also recovered from the floor in close proximity to the victim's head. The household items that were stacked on the victim had been broken or damaged when thrown on top of the decedent, and they included furniture, dishes, lamps, fans, books, and a television. The search of the bedroom indicated that inside the one bedroom there were THC vape cartridges, edibles, suspected hash, bottles of THC-infused syrup, resin, tubes of rolled marijuana, glass jars of marijuana, and 4 gallon-sized bags of marijuana and 2 gallon-sized bags of psilocybin mushrooms. The defendant, William Ingram, was taken into custody in Washington, D.C. as mentioned for the assault on the officers and destruction of property on June 16th at around 12:58 a.m. Later on June 16th, detectives from the District Attorney's Office in Northampton Township traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with detectives from the Metropolitan Police Department. As part of their investigation, they reviewed body-worn camera from those officers. Upon reviewing the body-worn camera, it was evident that the defendant was talking to employees at the detention center about his need to go to the hospital for treatment because he stated, "I killed my mom. Did I tell you that?" Furthermore, while providing information to hospital staff, the defendant was asked if he had an emergency contact number, and he said, "Not anymore." The defendant then provided a phone number, and when the hospital staff asked who the number belonged to, he said, "I killed her," indicating, obviously, his mother's number. At 10:20 a.m. on the body-worn camera, the defendant was asked how he got down here, meaning to the District of Columbia from the Philadelphia suburban area, and the defendant said, "I drove my mom's car." Shortly thereafter, the defendant made some unprovoked statements about being a drug dealer. On Tuesday, June 18th at 7 a.m., the autopsy was performed by Dr. Ian Hood, forensic pathologist, and he determined that the cause of death was multiple injuries and the manner of death was homicide. The injuries included blunt trauma to the head, slicing injuries, and lacerations. The defendant, as mentioned, admitted to driving his mother's white Honda Civic to the D.C. area in his flight following his mother's murder. The registration for that vehicle is KTV 2098, and we're asking for the public's help. We have yet to identify the location of that vehicle, so it's important that we have the public help us locate that vehicle. Further, if anyone had contact with the defendant on Saturday, June 15th, or the overnight hours between Saturday the 15th and the 16th with the defendant, we're asking for them to contact us at the number provided for more information. Finally, I just want to assure the community that they are safe. The defendant presently is being extradited from Washington, D.C. to Pennsylvania, and we anticipate that he'll be arraigned later this evening, early evening, where we will ask that no bail be set, given the fact that we have evidence that suggests that this is a first-degree murder. Additionally, I want to offer my condolences to the victim's family. This is a heartbreaking case, and our hearts go out to her family members. Finally, I want to commend and thank the Metropolitan D.C. Police Department, but I also want to commend and thank the detectives and the officers for the departments, my colleagues from the District Attorney's Office, and the outstanding work done by Northampton Township Police Department to help investigate and solve this case in such an expedited manner. I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Pinkerton for a brief statement, and then we'll answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Chief LeCompte and the entire Northampton Township Police Department, we would like to extend our condolences to the Ingram family on the loss of Dolores. We also appreciate the cooperation and support of the District Attorney's Office in the prosecution of this matter. We also appreciate the cooperation of the DC Metro Police Department in assisting our investigators.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any idea why this happened? What started it?
Obviously, this is still very much an active investigation. There were some additional statements made that give us some insight, but I'm not able to speak to it at this juncture.
Has he talked about where he might have left the car?
It's not clear. I mean, he did indicate that he drove it here, following his mother's murder. So we are operating under the assumption it's likely in the D.C. area, but it's possible it could be anywhere from here in between if he took other methods of transportation in addition to taking his mother's car.
Madam D, did he live in the house, or does he have a previous or other address?
It's my understanding he was living in that home, and specifically in the bedroom where the items, the drugs and narcotics that I mentioned, were found.
Were there any previous checks on that house or complaints regarding him or his relationship with his mother or drug dealing?
There was, yes. I can't speak to any prior criminal history, but there was some prior contact at that home.
By police for domestic calls?
I can't speak to it at this juncture, but that will become apparent during the prosecution.
Could
Do
you
you know how
provide?
recent those calls were?
I can't, just the rules limit what I can say, but that will become apparent, I think, sooner than later during the prosecution.
Could you provide further context on how the assault in D.C. happened with the officers and the damage to the vehicles?
Yeah, it was apparently, and again, I'm going to limit my comments on that because that is a prosecution occurring in the District of Columbia, but essentially an officer was just sitting in his patrol vehicle and it was an unprovoked attack where his glass was shattered, and then, brief struggle ensued, yeah, so I'm going to limit my comments, but that is a pending prosecution down in D.C.
And just seeing his image here and the injury to his cheek, I know it's right over there.
Yes.
Could you explain how that happened? Was it during the, interaction with the officer?
No, I believe it based on some information we received. Now, again, him being the source, that it may have been when he was murdering his mother.
Was he under the influence when this took place? Like, do they know if he had been using drugs or whatever?
So that is part of the investigation that's still pending. We do know that psilocybin is a hallucinogenic drug and a psychedelic drug, but that's still pending.
Did anyone else live in the home besides those two?
No, it was a 2-bedroom condo that was owned by Dolores, and as far as I know, in recent years, it's just been the two of them living there.
What other family is around the area? Did he have siblings?
Have a comment, do you care if I
There was local family in the area, and
I'm sorry, Chief or Lieutenant. I'm sorry if you don't mind.
there is family in the local area, and then there is extended family outside the area.
And do you mean by like siblings or?
If you don't want to answer, you don't have to.
We're not going to divulge family information at this time.
I do want to commend Northampton because they were in touch immediately with Dolores's family members and provided the information that they were able to provide to her loved ones. But just out of respect for them at this juncture, we're just not going to identify who they are.
Are you aware at this time if he has any connections to Washington, D.C.?
That'll be still something pending, the investigation. Nothing that I'm aware of at this juncture.
I know you don't want to go into family, but can you say if his father is alive?
I can't speak to that at this juncture, but I think some of that will become apparent sooner than later. Okay? If there's no further questions, thank you. I appreciate you all being here. Take care.
Is there any further charges to today?
Oh, yes, thank you. That's an excellent question. So as of today, the defendant has been charged with homicide, and we will argue that this is in fact a first-degree murder. He's charged with the lesser included offenses as it relates to the murder, the theft and receiving stolen property of the vehicle, as well as cruelty to animals, as well as criminal mischief for the damage done to the home. So that arraignment we anticipate occurring later today.
Jen, is that going to be just a general homicide charge for the time being?
Yes, for the time being, however,
It's gonna be general.
I believe Mr. Ferber will argue at the preliminary arraignment that this is in fact first degree.
Oh, so that could change at arraignment?
Yes, correct.
Any charges regarding the drugs that were found in the home?
Oh, excuse me, yes, thank you. Thank you, Jim. To state the obvious, yes. He's been charged with possession with intent to deliver for the quantity. I mean, this is 6 pounds of marijuana and bags of mushrooms and over $53,000 in U.S. currency bagged in a cellophane bag. So, and I think there's also dealing in proceeds of unlawful activity as it relates to the drug dealing. So, thank you. No, that's okay.
Did he kill the animals?
That is what our evidence suggests at this juncture.
Do you know how?
I don't know that at this juncture.
And there
There were two.
Like lizards?
Yes, reptiles, yes, lizard, yeah.
Was he employed or do you have any?
I don't have that information at this juncture. Okay? Thank you. I appreciate everybody being here.
Thank you.